not so much less retail. I think if it was less retail, people would have been really bothered. And also I wanted to look at UPS. UPS got a $2 billion contract with the post office or something. I don't know what it was. Actually, we may as well take a look. When you want to know what's going on in the world, you go to PhilStockWorld. That's right. I'm in no mood for this, so I'll do whatever I want. Isn't that nice? I mean, the Dolly did that, the computer thing. I said, because I had this lyric, and I said, what did I say? Mother and Child Reunion, right? Because it's Mother and Child Reunion. So I put in Mother and Child Reunion, and that's what Dolly came up with, which I think, I mean, honestly, it's got feeling, warmth, whatever you want to call it, for a computer. And now they started putting this little thing here, this prism or whatever the heck it is. That's so they're identifying themselves now instead of just being just giving people pictures that they take credit for. Although, I mean, frankly, it's probably really easy to erase, but I don't care. I want to give the computer full credit. I think it's a great artist. I mean, this is, you know, as good as it gets, really, right? If I had somebody to sketch me, even Maddie, if I asked Maddie to sketch me a Mother and Child Reunion, you know, first of all, she'd take a lot longer. This thing came in like 2 minutes, comes back to you and gives it to, and gives you this. It's crazy. In fact, come on, let's talk about that. That's a good thing to talk about. So here's Dolly 2. Hopefully it knows me on this computer. Yep. No, I'm not a robot. Oh, you're making me prove it? Damn. Damn, caught me. There's boats there. See, almost got me. There's a boat in there. And does anybody have a boat there? No, got that one. He's not carrying a boat. All good. Maybe that's a boat. Okay, I guess he liked that. All right, thank you. There we go. You have 6 credits left. We'll refill on December 29th. Oh, just in time. Look at this. This is good stuff. How about the man with the yellow hat? That's the guy from Curious George. Let's see what it decides to do. I love the randomness of it. I don't like to give it too much instruction. I like to see what it comes up with based on what you say. Of course, that's why I have no credits left. Nope, it doesn't look at all like the Curious George guy. Isn't that interesting? It decides to do this. They're basically the same kind of Asian guys. I like that with the color splash, though. That's a nice one. Oh, there's my fill on natural gas. Now we have 2 natural gas contracts. We hit 535, so I'm back to having 2 at 535. Still got a profit, so that's okay. Oh, that profit's now eroding. So there's my total profit, 2,200. Remember, I said I want to make sure we locked in 2,200. So the profit's 2,200 at the moment, but now we have 2 active contracts, and we're going to see what happens as far as it going down and so on and so forth. But I mean, we entered here at 525, so I'm inclined to buy more until you prove that it's going to fail 525 again. We didn't buy 525 anyway. We came in at 530, somewhere around here, whatever. But the point is, it's a good thing. And look at this. See, we're busting over. This is a very unusual move because you're busting over your second resistance level here. All right, and this is called in chart parlance. These are what they call pivot points. And if you want to do this on Thinkorswim, it's a study. It's a trend study, and the trend study is called P pivot points. So that's what I like to look at. They're reasonably accurate, and basically what this means is here's your trend line. This would be called resistance 1. No, sorry, support 1. This is support 1, support 2, and that's resistance 1 and resistance 2. So you're not likely to fall below in any given day. That's what it's based on statistically, how much volatility you can expect. So you're not likely. It's very easy to go between these lines. It's very hard to hit these lines. It's almost impossible to go over them. But of course, we are over them right now. But it's a crazy day. You can see it's a crazy day. So we will see what happens. Okay, we got that. That's good. Everything's good. On general charts, let's see if there's anything worth playing. Now we know our levels are 3840, and I think 3920 is the next level on the S&P chart, isn't it? I'm sorry, I got distracted from my dollies. So these were my choices for mother and child reunion. I thought they looked very sad. I didn't see that. To me, that wasn't very reunion-ish. They don't look that happy. So I thought the cartoon was the best one. And you can make it do more. It just uses a credit. Every time you do a strip, it's a credit. This was me. I don't remember what my question was. Oh, robot playing craps. See, you got this totally wrong. Robot playing craps in the style of The Last Supper by Da Vinci. It doesn't help when I give it too much instruction. I think it's because the computer knows that's kind of the closest, but they're not. It's weird. It's got a really weird interpretation of the whole thing. Owing my store to the company store in the style of American Gothic, that didn't work at all. You load, for whatever reason, you load 16 tons and what do you get? I think I was trying to illustrate that song, but this was useless. It does weird words. It's terrible with words. Don't tell it to do words because it just comes up with gobbledygook, not even English. Maybe it's because it's looking at an international concept and just sort of screws things up. What else we got? What's this? I don't know, we got that. Oh, same thing. So my store to the company store. See, it cost me a lot to find out that I couldn't possibly do it. This was one where I said I wanted a robot stock market advisor. Phil Davis worried about losing his job. I decided to use this one, even though it says Hallie Pat for some reason. But I thought that was a good picture. Me worried about losing my job. Not that it looks like me, but conceptually. I don't know what that was. I used one of these too, the $700 a month portfolio. I think that one is the one I decided was fine. It's like, whatever. These are kind of nice. So I see spectacular. These usually I want to illustrate some song or something I've got in the chat. Bullets in a lightning storm. I didn't know what the heck that could have been about. Lightning and bullets. I guess I really wanted to find something there. Oh, wait, did that one. What happened? Now I'm confused. That was Bullets and Lightning Storm. That was that. This was Trade of the Year, and it came up with complete nonsense as far as the words. Tea-tidy-nade, blah, blah, blah. I see a Trade of the Year, the yard. Yeah, I guess I was really trying to get that one to work, and it didn't. It refused to give me a Trade of the Year logo. And Powell holding glasses as Jerome Powell with glasses. I wonder why he had to have glasses. As Hamlet holding a money skull holding a money skull. The hell was I thinking? Of course that didn't work. Makes no sense. Well, that's interesting, right? He's got a skull. He's holding that. That one's good. I like that one. I hope I use that. It looks vaguely like him. I love it. Oh boy, I was really going for this one. Jerome Powell's Hamlet, to be or not to be. That's awful. And that's awful. Wow. I used to have half my monthly allotment. Godzilla eating at McDonald's. And for some reason, it made him small in every single one. He's like, I don't see how that's Godzilla eating at McDonald's. What is this? A hurricane destroying the United States economy on a map. Ooh, that didn't work at all. And again, because it just puts in random crazy words. But anyway, it's fun to play with, and this is free, and you get that many chances, you know, in a month, whatever it is. I forget. 15 credits. Well, you have 5 credit less, 15 credit. Okay, I guess you get 15 chances per month. And all you got to do is sign up for an account. It's OpenAI Labs. You can figure out Dolly login, whatever. It's Dolly 2, by the way. But I think honestly, it's like we have to embrace this technology because, you know, we're at the first stage here where you tell it to make you, there's music too, by the way. You can actually tell it to mix songs for you and to do like Elton John singing in the style of Prince or something like that. It'll do that kind of stuff for you also. And of course, it's not great yet. You know, Elton John singing Led Zeppelin or, you know, things like that it can do. Not all Elton John, but just stuck on Elton John in my head. Anyway, so you can do this stuff. You can make any picture you want. You can have the chat bot. That's the other one, the OpenAI. Chat bot is also amazing that it can do that. You can just write up. It basically, it's almost like it's an on-demand Wikipedia. That's the best way I find to use it, is just to say, if you want to say, what is the, you know how I have to look for stuff all the time. So it's like, I can say to it, how many avocado, where is it? So let's say it is chat dot, oh, I knew that, chat OpenAI. I will log in if you insist. I'm still not a robot. Oh, come on. That's a traffic light, and that's a traffic light. Oh, and that's a traffic light, you tricky bastard. Should I count the bottom of the traffic light? I say no. That is my human decision. Oh, it gave it to me. Good. Okay. So, what is California's annual avocado production? What is that? Because it's on a capital C? Give me a break. I mean, there you go. I mean, fucking amazing, right? Now, is it accurate? I have no idea. But if you want to get a quick idea of what's going on somewhere and try to figure out a number, and then I can go double check it if I'm doing a fact thing. But just to get some idea of where things are and what's going on, you know, it's like who are Putin's allies? It points you in the right direction. So far, nothing too useful. United Russia, blah, blah, blah. Outside of Russia, cultivated relationships, various countries. Oh, and now it's listing. See, that's nice, right? So it didn't have anything useful as far as names inside, but look at this. This is great. It's very big on hedging. It does that all the time. It's important to note this is static and blah, blah, blah. It doesn't want to let you think it's a definitive source. And if you don't like that response, you can regenerate it. This thing just seems to just, as much as you want to talk to it, it'll keep going. You know, and, you know, here, what's this? Write a nursery rhyme about Putin and Ukraine. This thing doesn't, it only goes up to 21. Uh-oh. Inappropriate or offensive. It would be appropriate for me to write a nursery. What? It would not be appropriate to write a nursery rhyme about Putin and Ukraine. Interesting. I wonder why that is. But it does such crazy stuff. It's like you can just sit there and play with it all day long, and you should though, because this was my point. So there was a point to this. So you need to know how to manipulate these things because they're going to become everywhere. This is going to be what Google search evolves into. This is going to be, as far as the artwork, it'll become very lame for you to put a presentation together and not have art and graphics and so on and so forth that are computed by these things. And, oh, I wonder if we can do that. Can it create a chart of the main sources of oil imported to the US. Let's see if we can do that. I don't know if I can make a chart, but at some point soon it'll be able to make a chart. Oh, look at that. Oh, at this point. I see that's a lot less Mexico than I thought, but again, you got to check it. And you notice that was 2020. This thing has only been fed information up to 2021. I don't know why. I think if you pay for it, you probably get the more current version. I'm not quite sure what their point is on that. But holy crap, right? I mean, if this was accurate, and even if it's not accurate, I can now go, how much oil does Canada import? How much Mexico? How much Saudi Arabia? How much Russia? Unless it's drastically missing something, I've got most of the oil imported into America. Really fast with like a minimal amount of effort on my part. So, everybody needs to step up their game. Okay, when you're writing, when you're talking to people, when you're checking proposals, when you're looking at investments, it's like everything's going to be able to be checked out a lot easier, verified a lot easier, proposed a lot easier. Also, though, that's another problem. Though, it can make people who have no idea what they're talking about sound authoritative. It's very interesting, and you've got to get this skill, because also down the road, though, what's going to happen is instead of just saying, look here, tell me a story about a bear and a shake weight. So as this thing develops, you're going to be able to say, make up an episode of The Big Bang Theory where Sheldon loses a tooth, or whatever, and it'll run the whole show for you. I don't mean like write it. I'm talking about it'll run the whole show and with characters and dialogue and everything. And what it's going to do is it'll become customized television that you'll be able to basically tell the thing what kind of show you want to see. I want to see a movie with the Transformers and Superman, and it'll make a movie with the Transformers and Superman. Not now, but think about how fast we went from Zork. Remember Zork on the internet, which was basically Dungeons and Dragons, right? You are standing at a tree. Not only that, but it's Dungeons and Dragons with only two possible outcomes. You are standing at a tree in a forest, and the one door says this, and one door says that. Which door will you enter? That's how you played the game. Then you go in there, and then the story branches out from there. But we went from that to freaking Warcraft in 10 years. That's crazy. And now, I mean, and that was the old version of Warcraft. Then we've got this 3D interactive worlds upon worlds of Warcraft, and all these other immersive games. And now we got virtual reality and things like that. the ability for these things to take any existing material and extrapolate it is going to lead to customized entertainment. You're going to just say, I want to hear a Led Zeppelin song about about the Yankees, and they'll start playing it. It might not be good all the time, might be good, and then I'm sure it'll refine itself over time. They'll get pretty good. It's going to be very terrible. It's going to be very bad for artists. This stuff is already going to be, it's funny how you would have thought that like art and writing and stuff like that would be the last thing that computers would get on top of, but apparently it's not all that hard. I don't know how bad this story is. Let's see. Once upon a time, bear named Bernard. Bernard was curious bear. He loved to explore his surroundings. One day, while out for a walk, he stumbled upon an object on the ground. It was a shiny silver shake weight. Intrigued by the object, he picked it up, began to shake it back and forth. He's not too worried about how his hands work and all that. At first, he wasn't sure what to make of it. He continued shaking, began to feel a burn in his muscles. He felt the burn. Bernard never had the sensation. He found it invigorating. As he shook the weight, he noticed it was starting to sweat. He had never sweated before. He found it amusing. Bernard continued to shake the weight and determine how much he could sweat. As the days passed, Bernard became more and more obsessed with shake weight. It's like everybody gets one, right? He spent hours a day shaking it, building his strength and endurance. Other bears were amazed by Bernard's dedication, and they all wanted to try the shake weight. Wow, bear culture is fascinating. In the end, Bernard's shake weight became the talk of the forest, and he was, it's unrestrained by concern about what somebody might think about the story, like the direction the story is going. It's getting kind of weird already. We're like, now you have this bear society, but then that makes for a good children's book. And some guy did already. Some guy wrote and illustrated a children's book using OpenAI and DALL-E and publish it. Boom, like here you go, a children's book. And basically it says to it, do a children's book about this. Write about this a little bit, write about that a little bit, make an illustration for this, make an illustration for that. Now hit publish. And then you send it off to one of those self-publishing shops. But that's crazy. And, they say the big complaint, and I believe me, I talk to Maddie about this all the time because she's an artist. The complaint is that what you're doing, what especially, well, this too in some way, it's harder to tell on this because you can't see it, so it's just words, and it'd be very tricky to say, oh no, that's like that sounds like Hemingway, that sounds like this, because it's never going to be purely one guy or another, and English is English, and then unless you really push, it's hard to get it to be like that. But for the art, when you see styles, there are certain artists tend to recognize the style. And the problem is that what they do is they fed this thing all the public domain artwork that they possibly could. And it derives its style from other artists. So in other words, it never learned how to paint. It only learned what paintings look like, and then it extrapolates them from one thing to the other. So it's effectively stealing work. The work that's been put into it is stealing the work without any credit at all. It's just taking a little of this and a little of that and a little of that and putting it all together and creating a painting. It becomes an original work of art. I say to Madeline, I say, well, didn't you copy other people's work and develop your own style via learning from different artists that you had? And she's like, well, yeah, but it's not the same. But I don't know. Really, it is. She's not happy when I bring that up, but really it is. It's like, what do you do when you're a human? You pick up, you learn various styles, and you eventually incorporate it and adopt your own. That's what the computers do also. When you tell it to flat out mimic something, it'll do it. But if you just leave it up to its own discretion, it'll just sort of go off on its own and make up a story, and or whatever it is you ask it to do. Oh, here, watch this. Write a, see, this is what I mean by you got to play with it so you can figure out what you can do with it. Write a business to sell ice to Eskimos. Look at it, it's naming the company. He aims to sell high-quality ice Eskimo communities in remote areas of Alaska. Wow, it even decides where it's going to sell it. While ice is readily available in urban areas, it can be difficult for Eskimos living in remote villages to access ice. It is expensive and time-consuming to transport. Oh, wow. Our company aims to fill this gap by providing a reliable source of ice to these communities. See, that's bullshit, though. It's totally just bullshitting. The demand for ice in Eskimo communities is high. I don't know if it has that for a fact. These provide exclusively for burning food, keeping drinks cold. You don't need to keep a drink cold if you're an Eskimo, do you? And even building material. Even building material. However, current options of access in these communities are limited and can be expensive and time consuming to transport ice. It said that already. Presents a significant opportunity, blah, blah, blah. It's really stretching the bullshit to make this business plan. To reach our target market, we'll focus on building relationships with local Eskimo communities and working with them to understand the specific ice needs. We will also work with local lenders and organizations to ensure that our ice is distributed fairly and efficiently within these communities. Oh, wow, good. That's nice. Let's work with the local leaders and make sure that we're equitably distributing ice. That's a little socialist there. Our communities will operate a fleet of ice making machines which will be powered by renewables. Oh, and wow, he's hitting all the hot buttons. These machines will be able to produce high quality ice on demand, which will be packaged. And where's the water going to come from? It'll be packaged and transported to Eskimo communities by our team of dedicated drivers. Oh, we have a team of dedicated drivers now. I love this business plan. Our company will generate revenue by selling ice to Eskimo communities at prices competitive with the cost of transporting ice from urban areas. We expect it's really fixated on this concept, right? That you can only get ice in the big cities. We expect to generate significant profits the first year of operation. Significant profits. I would like to see the numbers. And there is currently significant, shows you up, and you know what the problem is? Because the machine has learned from studying the bullshit of 100,000 business plans, and it's using all the buzzwords and all the little crap when you got nothing and you try to make it into something. It's hilarious. Arctic ice, this is so great. Arctic ice is well positioned to meet the demand for ice and Eskimo communities in remote areas by providing a reliable source of high quality ice at affordable price. Oh, high quality ice at an affordable price. It's even got a good logo, or whatever you call it. I forget the word. Good. Oh, I cannot. I'm blank on that word now. It's a good wordy thing. Mission statement, whatever you call it. We aim to become the go-to provider for ice in these communities and build long-lasting relationships with our customers. Wow. If nothing else, it's endlessly entertaining, but holy shit. So you just got to play with it and get an idea of what it can do. It's freaking amazing. And it's the future though, okay? So it's like, you know, when writing instruments came out and somebody said, you got to learn how to make these letters because you can make these letters and do all sorts of things with it. I bet people at the time said, like what? You know, it's like, no, you don't understand. We're not doing Sanskrit anymore. You know, we're not doing cuneiform and hieroglyphics. We're out of that. We're going to start using these letters and write on paper instead of carving into stone. And so if you learn this alphabet, you'll be able to communicate amazingly effectively. And I bet people back then were like, communicate what? And like, if I want to talk to somebody, I'll talk to them. So yeah, this is progress, but this is really like the internet. This is going to be one of the biggest changes of the next, 20, 30 years is just this dawn of AI and AI assistants that are going to start doing things for us. And this is just the first steps of, it's just amazing shit. It really is. And I super advise just taking the time and learning how it works. Robin says, so Robin wants to see the trend line and pivot point setup. So you just go on the blank part of a page of a chart and you click on the right clicker, or the opposite. For me, it's actually the left because I'm a lefty. the opposite clicker, and you go to find a study. Say add a study, and it's a trend study, and it is P pivot points. That's what this study is. Now notice there are about 50, 60, whatever the hell studies. It's like 60, 70 studies here. I have in fact played with them all at some point, but I've been on Thinkorswim since they invented it. In fact, I worked with Tom when he was inventing it. So you know, this is the one I actually use is this one, but there's a lot of ones that you might relate to. So you know, they're all fun to play with. Just add a study, subtract a study, whatever. But for me, it's the only one I care about because I can quickly look at a chart and say, okay, we're probably going to top out here shortly. This is a likely point to go here. It gives you an idea of what's happening. If you have a longer chart, like the flexible grid one, it's going to give you a longer study. It should. GOOGL. Nope, doesn't have pivot points. So if I want to add it, I just go to studies, add a study, trend study. Oh, I'm sorry. Those were just the trend studies, the 60 studies. I'm sorry. These are all studies. All these things have their own menus of studies. So there are hundreds, not just the trend studies. There are hundreds of studies. See, and now it has pivot points. And look at that one bust out. Oh, that was almost certainly earnings. 1128. Where was I? Oh yeah, charts. And that's where we are. What's natural gas doing? 531. Now, so I have two now at 535. 525 was low. So if we get around 525, I will add two more. But then anything below 525, and I might give up and then wait for a proper bounce. Because you can see there's not much support. On the other hand, though, you can see the oil. Oh, we never looked at the oil. God. Where is that? All right, well, enough of you guys. Petroleum status report. Petroleum status report. 1 o'clock. So what happened today? Commercial inventories decreased by 5.9 million barrels. That's a good draw. Are we in the right date? December 16th, yeah? Blah, 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 blah. Total gasoline inventories increased 2.5, da, 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 and distillates decreased by 0.2. So we had 5.9 up and 2.3, I'm sorry, wait, 5.9 plus the 0.2. So 6.1 down, draw, total draw, and then 2.5 added on the gasoline side. The total product supplied for the week was a bit higher. What happened in the SPR? This is where it probably went. Nope. Hey, 4 million barrels. There's nothing added to the SPR. 4 million barrels came out of the SPR. So no, this is an interesting turn. Now we exported a lot again, 4.4 million barrels a day. This keeps going up. Last was 4.3, now it's 4.4. And 4.4 times 7 is a large number. Well, it's 28 plus 28, so it's going to be 28, so it's going to be 30. God, that sounds crazy, doesn't it? 4.4 times 7 days, 30.8. Son of a bitch. We exported 30.8 million barrels of oil, of not oil, refined products out of the country. So when you see this draw in distillate and there's still a build in gasoline. That's funny enough, right? We still increased our gasoline. 30.8. We sent 1.5 days production out of the country. That's out of 7. So that's 20% of our total quote consumption is not consumption. It's what we export to other countries. It's just something we take in the oil from wherever, we refine it, and we sell it. So we're turning it around. It's not consumption by our country. And I know I say this a lot, but it's just a super important point to understand when you look at these prices. There's really no reason, especially when we have a build of 2.5 million barrels, it's no reason for gasoline to go up in price. So this is still quite a bit high. And if we look at the price of gasoline, here you go. Last year, gas was 220, and this year gas is 223. Last year, oil was 70, and now it's 74. It was really 71, and now it's 74. So, you know, a slight increase, not much. We're not up much more than last year, and there's no reason we should be. Things are a little bit crazy. So you have to wonder, like, how much of this is just hype. So a year ago, 325, 370, 360, $4, 396. So premium gasoline is cheaper now than it was a year ago. That's interesting. Diesel though, holy crap, look at poor diesel. Went from 360 to 560. 360 to 560. That's 60%. No, it's not 560, it's 460. Silly me. That's 33% then. I don't know why I thought that said 560. Probably because it's so tiny. Anywho, so where are we? So the indexes are doing very well. This is a nice day, and we'll see if we hold it. And then I have the charts up this morning. Here we are. Oh, we'll see if Nike and FedEx are holding up. Do I have charts? Charts. Well, can I open this image in a new tab? There you go. Oh, that's going to give me the live chart. So there's Nike, and they're still doing very, very well, 13.6%. And FedEx is up 5%, so that's not bad either. Both of them are doing nicely. Still doing nicely. Are these live? I think they're live. I think they're working. Oh yeah, 5%, 13.5. So these are working live. So, and my issues, why I wrote that about that. So my issue with Nike is that we're at 35 times earnings. So, you know, I don't care that it used to be at 180. Those people were idiots. These people are insane. That's 50% higher than it is now. They're paying over 50 times earnings for Nike. And now where's my thing? Dolly. No, well, I didn't want Dolly. I want the other one. Chat. Let's try this again. What is Nike's global market share? Depends on specific product category, geographic region. Nike's a global company with a strong presence, many countries. There you go. After qualifying itself, it says it was about 16.5% in 2020. Blah blah blah. Okay. So assuming it's right, and again, all right. So now let's compare that to Google and say, what is Nike's global market share? Sounds about right, but we'll see what they say. Ooh, Nike's global market share in sports and inspired apparel is predicted to remain steady at 27%. Ooh, look at that. We have some very, very strong differences of opinion here. Statistica knows Cookie consent manager. Oh, for God's sakes. Necessary cookies. I don't want that. Don't want that. Don't. Oh, shoot. Your network connection has been reestablished. Does that mean, there you go. How about now? It says it's back now. Sound back. Okay, thank you. I appreciate it. All right, good. Sorry about that. Not sure where it left off. All of a sudden, I realized there was no connection. All right, Coca-Cola market share. There we go. Now we're back in business. So Coca-Cola, okay, see 20.8%, Pepsi 10%. Now, this is important, although now we've lost the page where it told us the other thing. What is Nike's global market share? Nike's global market share. Okay, so when you see that Nike's global market share is 27% and Coke's is 20%, you say, well, gee, here's number one brand in the world, highly recognized. Their competitors half of where they are, yet they're only used by 20% of the world. Nike is used by 27% of the world. Coca-Cola has done everything they could possibly think of in life to get past 20%, and they've basically been there forever. You know, that's their market share in the industry. Maybe 50 years ago they were 30% or something like that because there wasn't much competition. But that's the problem Nike has too. Over time, people who wear Nike will wear Nike, but over time, other people will come up with brand ideas to go after them. This is why, by the way, when I was looking at the analysis of Nike, I said, I don't like Nike. And the reason I don't like Nike, they only make $10,000 per employee. Now, the problem is for Nike, a few of their employees make $100 million. The athletes, right? They pay out stunning amounts of money. How much does Nike pay out in, what do you call it, in endorsements? Annually. Yeah. So in 2020, $1.5 billion of endorsements. And that is critical to their brand. And that's a big problem, right? Because Nike only makes $5 billion. So 30% basically of their total profits go back to the athletes, go back to the people endorsing their product. They basically invented influencer marketing, right? They started the whole concept of influencer marketing, or not really. I mean, all commercials were influencer marketing, but as far as attaching their brands to sports labels and things like that, that's what they did that made them a global brand, a powerhouse. And of course, the problem is they do it, and they just do it. They just do it. They do this by, in every country, they go after the local people. So in other words, you know, the people that we think of as Nike sponsors and Nike endorses in Japan, you know, they may have Air Jordans in Japan and stuff like that, but they've also got, you know, the Fukushimas and whatever, you know, like the baseball players, the sumo wrestlers, blah, blah, blah. It's not going to be the same endorsements that we have. And this is their business model, and it's really hard to peel away from. This is the core of their company. But the core of their company is putting one quarter, 1.5 billion would be 1/4 of the total profits of 6.5 billion. What did I say? They're at 5 billion, right? Yeah. So 6.5 billion total potential profits, but the sponsorships roll it back to $5 billion. So out of 6.5, 1.5 is more, you know, more than 25% of their total profits are going towards athletic sponsorships. You know, and it's great and all that, but the problem is then you take the number of employees that Nike has, which is what we were talking about this morning. So now I take that and I look at how many employees Nike has, which is 79,000. And we divide it by that. That number's not right though. Hang on. 4,670,123 divided by 79, 123, 59. Well, that's 59,000. That's better. Hang on a second. Is that right? Because I had a different number this morning for sure. It was FedEx that had the terrible number, right? Yeah, FedEx is only 10,000 per employee. They have the terrible number. Nike, nope. Oh, I'm sorry, it's my mistake. So it wasn't Nike I was worried about. It was FedEx I was worried about. So they're making 50,000 per employee. But even so, 50,000 per employee, if you're going to give your employees 10% raises, it starts chewing into your profits. In Nike's case, it would be, let's see. Well, they're making 50,000 per employee. They probably don't pay their employees that much money. So if we say there's 79,000 employees times, let's say we give them $4,000 raises, that's $316 million. So that's going to be a little bit less or a little bit, let's call it more than 5% of their profits goes away in raising salaries. That's why that employee to profit ratio is important, because it lets you determine how much damage there's going to be when they have to eventually give people raises. You know, and since we're very much in a cycle where companies have to give raises because we still have so many open jobs, we still have so many underpaid employees, we still have rising minimum wages in so many different states, and almost every state is on a path to higher wages. That's going to be a fact of life for the next few years. So you can't stare at a corporation's earnings and not think that it's going to get eaten up by higher payrolls. That's just not going to happen. So higher interest, higher payrolls, it's going to affect almost every company. And the question is, to what extent? So what do we look for? We look for companies that don't have a lot of debt. We look for companies that make a lot of money per employee, that are less affected by both of those factors, that are absolutely going to hit the market. Now, then we get into the problem that that we're the only ones looking at this stuff, that not many people are going to talk about this sort of thing. So therefore, this is our advantage, but our advantage only works, and this is a conversation we just had before the webinar started, our advantage is only going to work if we stick to our guns. Somebody's just asking about GNRC. Here you go. So Tully said, GNRC, any thoughts of their prospects of becoming a painful trade? So GNRC, chart, there it is. So GNRC doing terribly, right? Nobody wants it. I want it. Okay, this is 10 times earnings down here. And they make a good amount of money per employee. They have a low amount of debt. And the growth, while shown on this chart, that's their growth. Wasn't very exciting here, and even last year we had supply chain concerns, things like that. But you're looking at a company that's going like this in sales, and the margins are staying okay. So that means that the earnings are coming up also. And I said long term, you got more weather events. You have more people with solar, and the more people that have solar, they start to realize that if it rains for 3 days, they got problems, right? So people start getting generators. A lot of people who have not, even people who don't have solar, getting their power knocked out by storms and so on and so forth. So a lot of people are saying, you know what, investing a few $1,000 in a generator is not a bad idea. And their problem last year was they had more orders and they had generators. They also had an installation problem. There was not enough people who installed the generators, because you have to wire the generator up to the electrical grid of the house. And so when your power goes out, it kicks in and flips on power. And a lot of the money that this year has been a building year for inventory, and they've jacked their inventory up by a lot. And so I'm saying, look, if you're looking at the thing as a value stock, it doesn't matter that people are looking at this stock and selling it. That's got nothing to do with it. And I said, if you have if you're investing in the Yankees, they're I wouldn't pay $5 billion for the Yankees, but beside the point, it's a $5 billion team by general estimates. And things can happen. COVID just did happen to them. There was a baseball strike. We could have a baseball strike. There could be other conditions that they go up and down. Maybe they win the series. Maybe they don't win the series. They have a bad season. They have a couple of bad seasons. You fire the manager. I remember when Billy Martin got fired back in the, I guess it was the 80s, and 70s, early 70s, early 80s, late 70s. George Steinbrenner used to fire managers all the time. That's how come they're a $5 billion team now. It's just it was built over the years, and we still had a 50-year history of greatness before that. But this team in the last 100 years has been in the World Series 40 times. 40 times. That's basically every other year they're in the World Series. That is a history of a franchise that generally performs very well. So when they have a few bad years, and they have had a few bad years, they've had a few great years. That's, baseball teams are streaky, right? You can be a great team, and suddenly, like the 4 or 5 years in a row, you get to the World Series, and you can have a bad team and not get in the World Series, like the Red Sox didn't get in the World Series for 100 years, and the Cubs too. It's not necessarily predictable. It also doesn't necessarily mean your team is worthless. It's just a different kind of a fan base and different merchandising and so on and so forth. But anyway, a company's like a team. This is why we invested in IBM last year, because it was the same basic logic. I'm like, I don't care if other people don't like IBM. I don't care if people are going, oh, IBM, so boring, haven't come up with anything recently. Their glory days are behind, blah, 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 blah. Bullshit. They were just in a slump. It's still IBM. It's still a great team. It still can easily be revived and become a catalyst and do major work. You have to invest. That's when you want to invest. That's not when you walk away. You know, when IBM was down, here we are. So here, in fact, this is why IBM was a trade year, because at Thanksgiving, it had dropped to 115. And actually, we dropped below that before Thanksgiving. But when we got to Thanksgiving, so here's the last week of December, it was still at 115 when we picked it. And we didn't play it to go up. We played it to be over 115 because I said 115 is ridiculous. I was willing to put my foot down. So we played the 100, 115 spread, but we played it in such a way that we made like 500% on the 100, 115 spread. We sold the 115 puts and we bought the 100, 115 calls. And when it did this, we got out of it already. It only took us a few months before it went up to 140. We were so deep in the money, it wasn't any point in staying in the trade. Then it went down again, we got back in, then it went up again, we got back out, then it went down again, we back in again. I'll play that range every time. But I'm not going to change my mind because it went from 140 to 120. I'm not going to change my mind and say I don't like IBM anymore because it went from 140 to 120. That's got nothing to do with why I like IBM. And if nobody sees the value in it, if it's like Apple in it was Yahoo. Oh, that's not the Apple. That's not the chart. Really, I don't have a Yahoo chart. They got the best long range. What's that? Nope. And now I lost this one. All right, there we go. So here's Apple. And we'll do that. And we'll do, well, let's do the 5-year chart. And we'll go back to 2000, whatever. Whoa, calm down. All right. So here's Apple, and it was at, well, yeah, I mean, I guess this is split adjusted because everything was 7 times what it is, right? So it was at $49, Apple. And it fell down to $3, and let's say that was $21. Although I remember Apple being $7, so I'm not quite sure how this split worked. I swear Apple was $7 or something like that. Anyway, doesn't matter. Apple dropped more than half. And I spent this entire time banging the table, and I said, buy Apple, buy Apple. Every time anyone asks me, what do you like? Apple. 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 I don't care. No matter what anybody said, and they said, what do you like? I'm like, do you have Apple? Buy Apple. This is stupid. And we went a long time. This is 10/6/2008. Nope, this is 9/29/2008 to 3/9/2009. So that's November, December, January, February. November, December, January, February, 4 months. And then finally in March, in the 5th month, it finally started going back up. But for 4 entire months, Apple was trading at a value. Don't forget, this is now, where is Apple? 130 or something like that? 125? 135. So this is now 1/30th, no, 1/40th of Apple's current price. So there's no rational person now who would not say this price was insane, and the people who were not buying it were crazy. There has never been a better, cheaper price to buy any stock that you could just sit there and evaluate them and say, there is no freaking way in hell that you could justify $3 for Apple. It wasn't a startup. It wasn't in, yeah, of course, sales went down, this went down, that went down. It's still Apple. Just like the Yankees is still the Yankees and Generac is still Generac. The fact that nobody wanted to buy them doesn't mean that they're worthless. Now, it does if you're under pressure and if you have to sell at that exact moment and you can't possibly wait and you've got to get money in your pocket now, then the price is what it is and you're going to sell. But should you sell? No, absolutely not. Find something else to sell. Don't have so much money invested ever at any one time that you're ever forced to sell something. Have hedges that put money in your pocket when the market goes down so that you've got money and you're not forced to sell things. That's the whole point of hedges. The hedges are there so you're not forced to sell your positions. The whole thing is based on the general premise that the market will probably come back. Now, to some extent, a little bit less now than in previous history, because the world population is no longer growing at the kind of pace it used to grow. So, you know, when I was born, I think there were 2 billion people in the world, if I remember correctly. That's scary, but global population by year. What? Go away. Oh, God. You know, if you open something in an incognito window, it then it shows you ads, which is lovely. So here we are, 1963. Ooh, 3 billion. Okay, 3 billion when I was born. So we had 3 billion people when I was born in 1963. And now we have, well, now we have 8 billion. We're just hitting 8 billion right now. So that's up 166% since in 60 years. So that's kind of crazy. My mom was born in 1940. Whoop, where are we? Oh, it doesn't have. They were 2 billion in 1940. So 50. So from when my mom was born until when I was born, we had about a 50% increase in population. All right, so that's, well, let's look at it over those kind of periods. Let's look at 20-year periods. So we say 1950, 2.5, 1970, 3.7. So we had 1.2. That's a 50% increase in 20 years, okay? So now 20 more years from 1970 to 1990. Whoa, wait, really? We went 3.7 to 5.3 is what? Is 1.6. Oh, that's right. Okay, so that's still 50% in 20 years. 1990 to 2010, we go from 5.3 to 6.9. So that's how much? That's 5.3 to 6.9 is 1.6. So 1 point, now see, that's a big difference, right? There's a huge slowdown here. 1.6 divided by 5.3 is 30%. So until 1990, we were growing, the world population was growing at 50% level. So it was almost impossible not to make money on almost any long-standing company, which is, again, is why I have that philosophy, my blue chip philosophy in life, right? Is always have blue chips, because there's always going to be people who buy stuff. Unless we're wiped out by a nuclear war or something like that and decrease the population, somebody's always going to want steel-belted radial tires. Somebody's always going to want a chair. Somebody's always going to want a computer on the desk. Somebody's always going to want a Coke in the fridge. There are things that people are going to, somebody's going to want the fridge that the Coke is in. People are going to buy the electricity that keeps the fridge running, blah, blah, blah. So there's always going to be things that people have and people want, and people will do whatever kind of work they have to do and do whatever it takes to get these things, right? Like an iPhone. There will always be people who want iPhones, and it's virtually impossible to imagine the scenario in which people stop wanting iPhones. That is the main reason kids get jobs, is to go buy phones. That's what they want. That is, they don't feel like they're part of society until they have a phone in their hand. And to some extent, that's true, the way society is now structured. For good or ill, it's not a judgment thing. It's a matter of it's a consumer fact. So it's a matter of saying what is going to endure, what sort of businesses are going to always be there, what's going to be the future. Now, so it's shooting fish in the barrel since the 1940s, when my mom was born, and before that also, of course, when we doubled before that. So when the world's growing at 50%, that means your revenues are going to grow 50%, your profits are going to grow 50% unless you screw up your company over a 20-year period. That's without gaining market share. That's just your market grew. So when did this really start breaking down? If we look at now 2000 to 2020, we went from 6.1 to 7.7, and again, only 1.6, but now it's 1.6 out of 1.6 divided by 6.1. Now it's down to 26%. So we went from 50% to 30% to 26% population growth. See what's happening? And that's where we are. And then you can break it down to 10-year periods and whatever. But the point is, there's been a serious slowing since the 1990s. A serious slowdown has started occurring in population, and it becomes so now that trend we saw on Nike. If I could still find that. What the hell is this? Okay. So now if we go back to this, nope, not that. Where was it? I lost it. Anyway, there was that chart with Nike that showed the flattening. This is why you're going to get the flattening everywhere, though. It's not going to be just Nike. Companies are going to start flattening because we're not growing the population. It's not automatic ads. Yes, some companies will win, some companies will lose, but it is not going to be automatic that all you have to do is open your doors up and say, I'm selling crap, and it's going to expand every year. And in the next 20 years, we have to be ready for that, because okay, we went from 50 to 30 to 26. So 50 to 30 is a 40% reduction. That's pretty drastic. Okay. Then we went from 30 to 26. That's a 20% reduction still in population growth. We know COVID has caused a real sort of a stoppage in population growth. So recently we took a big hit. So let's say we drop another 20-something%. That means our growth is going to go from 25% to 20% or less. So natural population growth is no longer going to be a good way for a company to grow. That's over 20 years. That means population is going to be growing your company. It used to grow your company in 20 years 2.5% per year in revenues. There'd be 2.5% more people buying your product every year. Now we'll be lucky in 20 years to get 20%. You'll be lucky to get 1% annual population growth. So population is no longer going to be the driver to get market share and to build product lines. That makes everything tougher. And GDP isn't going to grow the way it used to grow because you don't have more people. It's very easy to grow your GDP if you're growing the population. But if you're not growing the population, what are you going to do? You have to then move your company, you have to move your country from a Greece kind of population, from a Ukraine population. You know, it's like they live, they're Europeanish people, but they don't live like Europeans. They don't have the big screen TVs. They don't have the nice cars. They don't go out every night to eat in restaurants. There are no freaking, you know, there are some restaurants, but there are not a ton of restaurants, maybe in Kiev or something, but not every city in the Ukraine is going to have a lot of restaurants. I remember when I traveled in Europe when I was a kid, and you would go to a town, and you could walk all over the town and not see more than a few places to eat. People just didn't eat out that much back then. You know, but a lot of the world is still like that. So it's just going to become harder and harder for growth to exist. So we have to start getting our heads around the idea that we should be happy with companies that are like AT&T, that are like IBM, that are like Ford, that just every year they sell a certain amount of cars, they sell a certain amount of computers, they sell a certain amount of houses, whatever, and that's it. And we don't expect them to grow and jump and be up 100% in 5 years. It's just not going to be realistic anymore. There will be trends. There will be certain companies like solar energy, obviously, for the next decade or so is going to be a huge growth. That's why our stock of the year is a solar stock, our stock of the decade. You know, there will be certain sectors that you say, okay, this is a hot sector and this concept will grow. This will be a big thing. Like I said, this open AI, I don't know how you're going to make money on it, but I mean, it's going to become a very big thing. Well, I'll tell you how you're going to make money on it, because people like, again, like I said, this will develop over the next decade to the point where Netflix's original programming will be, you know, some guy, some executive sits there and says, okay, let's make a show about this and that. And all he has to do is license the rights to the actors and then tell the computer a story, and the computer's going to take it from there. You know, you don't have to be good at it. I just wrote a perfectly good story about a bear and a shake weight. You know, it took me 0 effort. Now, if I had any skill, I do have skill. Like, actually, I thought I had skill, but I'm embarrassed by how like decent that story was. It's like I see it thinking of things. I wouldn't have thought of that. I would have thought of the other bears wanting to use the shake weight and things like that. And, you know, I was just trying to think of what it would do with it. I was just curious. I gave it something so ridiculous. I'm like, see if we make a story out of this, huh? And there it goes, making an actually decent little children's story for it. But anyway, so any idiot, as an example, will be able to write their own stories and tell their own stories and amuse themselves and have, and there will be, and again, this is going to be what your home robot is going to be. Your home robot is going to tell you stories. Your home robot's going to come back and say that. You're going to say to your robot, hey, what's the market share of Nike? And it's going to tell you it's 16%. It's going to be totally wrong, but it's going to sound like it knows what it's doing. You'll be misinformed, but you'll be misinformed on a very authoritative note, which is basically Fox News. So people obviously accept this kind of behavior. But hopefully it gets a little better at fact checking than it is now. But clearly, you can see how this AI, for lack of a better word, you can see how this AI in the brain of a computer will be able to tell itself, you'll say, go to the grocery store and get me apples and grapes and Jello and you know, and multigrain bread and some eggs and some milk, and or you can say to it, get me what I need to make a rice cake, a rice pudding, let's say. Okay, so good. Here, how do I make rice pudding? It's dead. Oh, no, there it goes. There you go. So I don't even have to say, get me this stuff. I'll say, I want to make rice pudding for 10 people. And it's going to say, okay, I'll come back with what you need for rice pudding for 10 people. And it's going to go to the thing. It'll probably check the fridge first. And it'll say, you need salt. We got salt. We don't have cinnamon sticks. Why would you use a stick? That's interesting. I use ground cinnamon. Am I wrong? Should I be using a stick? What are you doing with the stick? Remove the stick and stir in the vanilla extract and salt. Really? I gotta try that. So it's just gonna spread the flavor without getting too much cinnamon, and that's an interesting way to go. Anyway, sugar, milk. So it's gonna check the fridge and see what I need. I probably need the short grain rice. And I certainly have enough milk. So it's gonna see what you need. So I'm gonna tell the thing, and I can tell it I'm gonna make chicken Kiev. And it's going to go get, so I'm going to say, I want to make chicken Kiev on Tuesday. I want to make rice pudding tonight for dessert. And I want to have a nice salad, sort of. Let's have a chicken salad on Friday. things like that, and it's going to go out and do that. But also on its way to the store, it's going to ask itself, this is the trick, is can it learn to ask itself, how do I get to the store? Where's the nearest grocery store? Who has the best prices? How do I get to that store? Then it gets to the store and it says, oh, we're out of short grain rice. So it's going to say, I need to get short grain rice to make the rice pudding. Therefore, I'm going to ask myself. See, that's the trick when it starts asking itself questions. Like when it says to itself, who near me has short grain rice? Question number one. If not acceptable, if there's not a good answer for that, that it can't easily get to another short grain rice, it's going to say, what could I substitute for short grain rice in a rice pudding recipe? All right, so here, what can I substitute for short grain rice in a rice pudding recipe? And when it learns to ask itself that question, you have a self-actualizing robot. Whether it's really intelligent or not, it's going to solve the problem. Look at that. And if it's not sure, it could probably call me and ask me the same question, right? And say, hey, Phil, they don't have short grain rice, but they do have jasmine rice. Yeah, I don't want jasmine rice because it has its own flavor. It messed up the rice pudding. Basmati, that'd be interesting, basmati rice. Sushi rice. Oh, I would like that. I would like to try that. It's still a short grain rice though, so I'm not sure that would count. But there you go. So it's going to tell me these are my choices for substitutes. Do I want to substitute? Or it'll just do it itself and say, I know we've had that before and therefore it's acceptable. This is how you're going to build a robot. This thing is smart enough to solve most problems. And now you just have to teach it that problems need to be solved. That's the thing. And all that is really doing, though, is saying you've been told to do this. You've been told to go to the grocery store and fill out this grocery list. So how do you go to the grocery store? Here's how I go to the grocery store. You know already that your GPS, if you run into a traffic problem, or if you run into a road that's not open, that it's going to reroute you, right? That's all this is just rerouting. And so, boom, now you're going to go to the grocery store, however you have to get there. Now, number two, you get to the grocery store and you look for stuff and you find all the things you need. If you don't find something you need, you're going to reroute. You're going to get substitutes. You're going to find alternate ways to fulfill the desires, right? And if in the end, if you can't fulfill the desire, you will communicate with the home base and talk to your master or whatever and say, hey, I can't get this, I can't get that. Is there any other instructions? Which is really just what Grubhub does now with humans. It's not, they're not any smarter than the robot. And then you're going to come home and it's going to make, and frankly, it knows how to make it. I don't actually have to make it anyway. It's going to make it for me. It knows how to do this stuff. You have a decent robot, it's going to be able to make that for you. So like I said, get good at this, because this is going to help you understand how stuff works in the future. This is understanding the abilities and restrictions that are in these things are going to help you understand what you can and can't do with the devices that are going to come out that use this stuff as a base. And knowing, knowing how to drive is going to help you enjoy a car a lot better, right? You're going to get a car, you should know how to drive it. That's basically what this is learning how to drive. So crash now and learn how things work, learn how to phrase something. That's a trick for Google also. How do you phrase something? You have to know what it knows and doesn't know. You have to avoid short words. You have to not, don't do what my mother does, which is she tells Google a whole story. My mother's like, my mother's like, hey Siri, what was the name of that show with the man in the Western who was in love with the woman, and then at the end he had he rode off into the sunset. What was the name of that show? It's like
I found this on the web.
Look at that.
What was the name of that show with the man in the Western who was in love with a woman? And the end he had a. Check it out.
What? See, my phone was spying on us. Did you answer that question? You just repeated it. That was weird. Because I said the magic word, right? And it woke up. You repeated exactly what I said. That's funny. So that's how my mother talks to Siri, and that's the response she usually gets. Is it's like, I don't know what you're talking. I try to tell my mom, like, you just right, Western guy, Oklahoma horse sunset. That's what you write. Don't tell it all the other stuff. The key things are what you need to tell it so you can get the best answer. Otherwise, it's going to give you gobbledygook. But if you know how to use it well, and most of you guys do, it becomes a very valuable assistant. It's a very valuable way to get information and find things. This is going to be much more valuable. Look at this, it's crazy valuable. Also, there's no ads, there's no bullshit, there's no commercials. I'm not gonna get chased for the rest of the day by rice pudding commercials or things like that. But then that stuff is also basically AI that identifies, says, hey, this guy asked about rice pudding, therefore he probably wants, we should send him commercials for these things. And if he likes rice pudding, maybe he likes tapioca, so we'll give him some tapioca ads. If he likes rice pudding, we, tell him that it's already available in the grocery store, all made already. This is the future. And again, we all, I don't think there's too many people here who didn't log into Prodigy and log into AOL and go, and wait for the thing to connect. And then when it connected, it was so slow you want to shoot yourself. Although it wasn't, though. Actually, if you think about it, we didn't think it was slow. We would sit there and stare at the screen for 5 minutes, and then something would happen, and we go, oh, cool. It's like, look at that. I asked it for a movie time, and it told me. Holy cow. Now when I'm watching TV and I see a person in a show, I just put in the name of the person in the show, and I get I find out how much money they're worth. I find out what films they've been in, where they are, what movies they're doing, what their history is on IMDb. It's ridiculous, and I expect to be able to find that out in 10 seconds. I'm annoyed if I can't find that stuff out. And this is not that long. This is not that much longer. This is 20 years later. This is where we've gotten to. And now we're here. And now we've got this digital assistant that'll just tell us and sort it out. But this is what the web is supposed to be. And I think I was just complaining about that, right? This is what the web was always supposed to be. Ask a question, get an answer. That's how the web was supposed to work. It was supposed to have all the knowledge of the universe at your fingertips, but not that you had to dig through 5 tons of crap to get there. Not that you had to like pole vault over advertisements and banners and things all over the place and sit through ads on, where you had to wait for a little skip box to come up every time you want to see a video to get rid of the commercials. That's bullshit. That's something we let ourselves get tricked into. And that's why when I see these guys going up before Congress, like Zuckerberg and things like that, I'm like, yeah, good. You ruin the internet. All you people ruin the internet. It's supposed to be a place where you trade information. It's supposed to be a place where, if you say, what's the best pizza in Delray Beach, it's going to tell you. Based on these responses and these reviews and that and that and that, this is the best pizza, this is the best overall rated pizza in Delray Beach. Here's the 3 best ones that people seem to like the most. Also based on the traffic and so on and so forth. But no, that's not what happens. Instead, we get commercials. So when I go to Google and I say, what is the best pizza in Delray Beach? Anthony's is not the best pizza. These guys are not. Salvo's, are you kidding me? I mean, none of these there, but these are advertised. It's also not clearly marked that these are advertised, but those are advertised. Then it takes me, without fail, this happens, TripAdvisor. How is TripAdvisor now an authority on pizza? They're not. and they say Anthony's too, because Anthony's advertises the most. 10 best pizzas in Delray Beach, Windy City. Now, Windy City pizza is pretty good. Death by Pizza, not my favorite, but okay. I mean, these ones are okay. Abet's New Haven Pizza, okay. These are better choices for Yelp, but that's because Yelp works off reviews. But meanwhile, it still hasn't answered my question. Delivery Dudes is telling me who the best pizzas are, and Anthony's again, because they advertise the most. Bambini's, I don't even know who Bambini's is. That's interesting. Anthony's comes up again. Anthony, look at this, Anthony, Jesus Christ. Sazio, finally, see, that's actually the best pizza. So Zomato is where you want to go. But that's the problem, though. This is not how it should work. Oh, and I have ad blockers on, too. If I didn't have ad blockers on, there'd be ads all over the place. This is not how it's supposed to work. I should be able to get an answer. There should be a consensus. There should be some logical way to determine this. But the internet is very, very far from that now. It's not what it used to be. And you know, it's just been taken over by capitalists effectively. And we suffer. We don't get the information we need. Well, actually, also Elizabeth is really good pizza. Where's Elizabeth's? There it is. Those guys are good too. And at happy hour, it's half price. They have these personal sized pizzas, right? Which aren't too small anyway. They're, I don't know, call it 10-inch, something like that. But they have personal pizzas. But they're very, very nice little pizzas. They have super thin crust, though, which is my negative on it. But really, really delicious. And they're half price, so they're only $10 at happy hour. So, you know, pizza and 2 beers, and it's $20. That to me is a good little, a nice dinner. What else? Anyways, Mellow Mushroom. They're not even open anymore. That's weird. Best name for pizza shop. Anyway, so things should be easier on the web. That's my point. But this is going to be a new revolution. And that's the thing, though, when you're going to get these, as this AI develops, you're going to be able to, it's yours, you own it. And I fault Apple for this too, because Apple should be supporting this, because Apple's phone should be able to prevent you from seeing ads. And Apple's phone should be able to let you have an experience that's better than what you get on your computer. You know, there should be more privacy to my phone. If I'm paying $1,000 for a phone, I want to pay $1,000 for a phone that doesn't drop my information everywhere and it doesn't show me a ton of ads. I don't want to see it. It's not my preference. And frankly, that other thing, I just made a mistake when I signed into that site. This other thing where you go to a website and it talks about your cookies because of these rules, and you can opt out of your cookies. Like, I don't want to opt out. I want to opt out of all cookies. I don't want anyone to have my cookies. If I want someone to have my cookies, put a little cookie box up there and say, if you visit this site a lot, it might enhance your experience to allow cookies, and then I can decide what I want to allow. But why is the default that I allow cookies? That's not right. Not when every single page you visit to keeps asking you, do I want cookies? That's annoying as shit. But anyway, so when you have the robot, when you've got the AI, you're gonna be able to tell it, don't show me any ads, ever. And that's gonna blow up a lot of people's models, right? That's gonna blow up Google and Yahoo and so many other people, but not now. And not for a long, long time, because this model is endemic. And these chat bots and so on and so forth, until they move to a more personal level and become part of your phone, part of your home's computers and so on and so forth, it's not going to really have a huge effect. That's why we're still buying Google stock and things like that. But the writing is on the wall for these guys. Their model is not going to last. I think that's part of the reason where Apple, other than Siri, but Siri's not really a search engine like that, but Siri is more or less a basic AI, that they are going to probably what you're saying, that they're going to be able to give you information without all the crap. That's going to be the big change, and good for us. You know, we're going to get control back on some of these things. supposedly already you can say to Siri, get me 4 tickets for the for this show at 8 o'clock, and it'll do it. But I think it's still buggy the way it works. You're supposed to be able to say, get me dinner reservations. I know Google does it very well, actually. You can say to Google, let's see, what can I tell it? Reserve a table for 4 at Elisabetta's. I don't know. There's some way it's supposed to call the restaurant for you or something like that. I think I did something wrong. But look at this information, right? Because so it comes, but still, this is nice, right? It comes right up. Reserve a table, order delivery. I can call them by just hitting this button. It shows me when they're going to be busy. And this is happy hour, and then people come in. 2 p.m. Not busy, no wait. Closes at 10. I mean, this is nice. I like this about Google. They do good stuff. So anyway, this is the future, though. This is how stuff's supposed to work. And the same thing, they're getting better with the airlines too. If I say PBI to EWR, January 15th to 22nd. Right? So it's easier if you know your airline codes, but you don't have to know your airline codes, obviously. But if I do that, and it tells me that I can take United nonstop from 128, that's pretty good. I didn't say round trip, did I? Yeah, it's probably not doing a round trip. 128, 243. Anyway, that's great. This is what it should be, right? It should give you the first best answer right away. That's how this thing should work. That's how you have efficiency. And internally, this is also another thing where this is very important. Internally, companies are utilizing this stuff to become more efficient. And that leapfrog in efficiency, like I said, we're not going to have a lot of growth, but what we are going to have a big leap forward in is efficiency. But unfortunately, that efficiency means we don't need so many people to do stuff. I have a computer that understands this, and I have a computer that says, if I run out of this, I do that. If I run out of this, I do that. If I start running low on this, I know. I was told I have to make 800,000 orders of rice pudding, and I see that I only have this much sugar. So long before it runs out of sugar, which is kind of unlike humans, right? Long before it runs out of sugar, it's going to be looking at the inventories and saying, I need more sugar. And now if you extrapolate that out, if I can then plan my sugar consumption for the year, and good companies do this for sure. Not the New York Times. Where's my futures? So if I'm a smart company and I'm making a lot of rice pudding, I should be worried about this, right? So during the year, well, this isn't during the year. Let's do that during the year. Anyway, so if I look on the long-term chart, and I would say, well, the best price for sugar is probably going to be somewhere down around here, $12.50, and a bad price for sugar is when you get over 20. So my range is $12.50 to 20. Therefore, my computer should be telling me that when the price of sugar drops down below $12.50, I'm going to then order sugar whether I need it or not, right? I have a 2-year projection for my sugar consumption, and even if my warehouse has a year's worth of sugar right now, if I have room to store it, it'll make sense for me to buy more at $12.50. Because I don't know what the price will be in a year, but I do know that now it's at an optimal price to get something, right? This is how you're going to get, and you can bring a lot of efficiencies into companies, but how? Because people have to do what I'm telling you now, what I've told my kids now. And they're telling their friends this also. It's an important thing. I'm like, you got to learn this stuff because this is how things are going to work in the future. And when I can sit down at a job interview and they say, what can you do for this company? I can say, here's what I can do for this company. I can tell you when to buy sugar. I can save you millions of dollars buying sugar at the right time. I can sit down there and plot a projection. My daughter, Jackie's at Stevens Institute learning programming and stuff like that. But I said, don't just learn programming. Think of how to apply it. What are you learning the programming for? But if you understand why you're learning programming and what the point is, that's when you can really help a company. Like, hey, do you know that we could write a program to automate this? And that's what my dad was a systems analyst. That's what he used to do. That was, he used to have to say, because nobody even knew what computers were when he was going around in the 60s and 70s installing computer systems in mainframes mostly, installing mainframes and writing COBOL and stuff like that, and setting up accounting systems and inventory systems and so on and so forth. It's the first time these companies ever had these sort of things. And it never even occurred to them that you could automate these tasks and get things done much more efficiently. But he had to tell them what they could do. He had to understand a bit about their business to be able to tell them, this is what you can do with this computer. This is how it's going to help your business. Well, still to this day, and in fact, I was just talking to an oil trader about this. It shocks me the way the government handles the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, because the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, Biden sold oil it's out of the Strategic Petroleum. He doesn't just release it, he sells it, right? People buy it. It's not like it's just giving it away. So he's released a huge amount of oil out of the Strategic Petroleum Reserve between $100 and $120, basically, and lower. I mean, even if it went lower. But now they're starting to buy it back. But you know what he did? What he didn't do is last week or last 2 weeks, when oil was down around $72 or $70, he didn't lock it in. Why? In theory, if he can buy back the oil at 75 bucks roughly, if he can buy back the oil that he released at 75 bucks, he's going to make $4 billion profit on the oil, on the transaction. He sold it for 120 or 110, 100, and he bought it back for 75. So there's a $25 spread. That's a profit of $4 billion, and he refills the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, so we're good to go for next time. But you know what they didn't do? They know they have to buy 400 million barrels of oil. They know they have to refill the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. Then why didn't they buy 200 million barrels last week at 70 and spread it across the next year with contracts and lock in the price? Couldn't hurt them. They may lose an opportunity where oil would be cheaper, but instead of going to the spot market every week and randomly either making money or losing money and just refilling and saying we're going to buy 2 million barrels a week and we don't really care what we sell it for, that's stupid. They should have done the same thing at 120. They could have sold futures contracts at 120, and you know what? It wouldn't have mattered because they would have made money at 120. A simple thing like that, instead of making $4 billion, if they would have sold at 120 and sold 200 million long-term contracts at 120, and if they would have bought 200 million long-term contracts at 75, right? That's $45 times 200 million is $9 billion. So instead of making $4 billion, they would have made $9 billion by just freaking going to the NYMEX and making a trade. You can do that when you're so big that you hold that much oil that you can make those decisions. It wouldn't hurt them. There's no harm. There's no way it would hurt them to do that. They had oil they were willing to release. They set a release schedule. The release schedule is set at the highest price. Then they wait to see if it gets lower. If it gets lower, they start buying it back. They buy it back at the lowest price that they see that's reasonable. Could have made $9 billion, could have made $5 billion extra dollars by just doing a simple hedge. And so can you, though. That's the thing. All you guys can learn how to do this. All you guys can learn how to buy low and sell high, but you do it by knowing what the value of something is. That's the trick. That's what all this stuff comes down to. We use options to set these prices. We sell at the highs. We buy at the lows. We sell a short put. We're buying at the lowest part of the channel. We sell a long call. We're selling at the lowest part of the channel. At the highest part of the channel. So with IBM, for example, going back to that, this is not going to show me IBM. Yahoo. Wrong Yahoo. So with IBM, the last 5 years, good. I know that 145 is too much. So when IBM's up around 140, I'm getting ready to sell. When IBM is down around 120, I want to buy it. Instead of just holding it like an idiot, if I bought it here, well, I wouldn't have bought it here. We did buy it here. Well, not there, actually, we bought it in 2020. Well, last year. Here's where we bought it, Thanksgiving time. So we bought it when it was I know we bought it when it was 115. So whatever this date is in here that Thanksgiving fell in, or I guess a little before Thanksgiving we did it. But so we bought it when it was 115. That's the bottom line. Probably we caused this because we always cause a spike when we do the trade of the year. But we bought it at 115. We sold it at 140. We bought it back at 120. We sold it at 140 again, and we bought it back at 120 again. Because we know that's the range for IBM. It's the same range it's been in for years and years. That's what led us to buy it when it was at the bottom of the range. I said, oh, IBM's at the bottom of the range. Why do we have the watch list? Where is the watch list? How am I going to find my watch list? You don't know that I'm signed in, right? Log in. Hello? Anything happening? Oh, there we go. And then I go to dashboard. I think. Here we go. And comments, no. Top trades, no. Where is the thing? Pages, forums, posts. List fills posts. There you go. Okay, so Control F. That's not a thing that regular people have access to. Watch list. There we go. Open a new window. So I rounded up the watch list on December 12th, and I said these are what right now are on our watch list. This includes the trade of the year runners ups, right? When I had this, these were the trade of the year runner ups. Well, also the trade of the year. And then these were the purges, things that got kicked out of portfolios. The things that got kicked out of portfolios, whatever the reason is, they were obviously at some point interesting to us to put in the portfolio. Mostly things get kicked out of the portfolio because they are they already made money and we're done with them. Some things we gave up on, but I don't think I probably would have included the things that we gave up on. These are the things that we gave up, that we stopped trading because we already made our money and we're moving on. I don't think, like, pets is probably not in here or whatever. So from the dividend portfolio to para, STLA, whatever. So there's like all these different stocks. Here's from the earnings portfolio. Here's from the LTP. So obviously, if any of these guys get cheap again, we're gonna re-look at them. And I'm gonna, I gotta make a post where I have all these things and we put the chart next to them. It's easy when you have the charts because the charts dynamically update themselves, and that way, whenever you refresh the post, you'll see where they are now, and that's when we have whenever we want to, when you want to find a stock, you just go through the watch list and say, hey, look who's cheap, look who's down on the channel. That's the key to the whole thing. We know we like these stocks. We've already vetted them. They've already been in our portfolios, or in this case, they've already been into what we think are going to be recession-proof stocks. All these are stocks that we thought would do well in a recession. Or we're so cheap that we're like, we don't really care if they get cheaper. It's like we want these stocks. So, not that we don't reevaluate them, not that we don't look at them again, but after first quarter, we'll see who's still cheap in the earnings, and we'll start picking things up. So last month, not last month, 2 weeks ago, when we reviewed the portfolios, and said, and we started putting some money back in, right? That's step number one, is we started fixing the positions we have now to make sure they're all on track. This next review, that'll be January 15th, basically, the next reviews, we're going to do that again because we're still in the middle of earnings, but we're also going to start looking at the watch list, and we're going to start seeing what's on sale. And then especially as earnings come out, we're going to see how we get reactions. And if certain sectors get sold off, if certain stocks get sold off and they look really cheap, that's when we start getting involved. Now, of course, getting involved means we may just sell puts, and we sell short puts that give us even an additional discount to where they are now. And like I said, with IBM, when IBM was at $1.15, if I get back to Yahoo somehow. So when IBM was at $1.15, we sold the $115 put, $115. When IBM was at $115, we sold the $115 puts, and we sold them for like, $10 or something like that. If we sold those for $10, that means we're paying that 105. I'm super comfortable. Here's 105. I am super comfortable getting to IBM for 105. Has it been lower than 105? Sure it has. I don't care. These guys are wrong. This is totally wrong. This makes no sense. And I think are these days or weeks? What are these? 322, 320. No, these are weeks. So IBM was down for a couple of weeks, way down here below the 110 line. Basically, this week, 1, 2, 3, 4, like for a month, it was below the 110 line. And then it went down again below the 110 line. And that's what I was saying to Tully before. I'm like, because he's saying about GNRC. And I'm like, I don't care that it's below. It's not my problem that these people don't think it's worth it. I sure do. Now, I'm not going to jump in and every time something's low, take advantage of it, but certainly we're going to manage our positions and say, is it going to come back? Do we have a chance? And we want to do that. Now, Disney is down at the moment, but Disney's not cheap. This is a problem because Disney, you would think it's cheaper than it was. Oh, not that. DIS. It's cheaper than it was, but it's not cheap. Because in the very long run, oh geez, okay. So here's Disney now. In the very long run, since the history of Disney from 1998 to 2011 is it was pretty flat around $30, $35. Then all of a sudden in 2012 with the low interest rates and then everything going up, and then we had COVID, which knocked them back down. But then we had stimulus, which everybody went to Disneyland with their stimulus checks. It had an incredible run from 35 to 200. But that was insane. Their profits didn't go up that much. Their profits didn't go up 6, 7 times. Just people started paying ridiculous multiples for it. But then you get back to the same problem. Disney, on the park side, once they're full, they're full. They've been raising prices lately, but that's that's another thing. But once they're full, they're full. They can't build more parks. They can build more parks, but that's expensive and takes a long time. On the hotels, same thing. Once they're full, they're full. Takes years and years to build more hotels and do more parks and so on and so forth. So they're not going to make a lot more money than they're making now. Forget COVID. I mean, ignore that factor, but they're not going to make a lot more money than they're making now. Then you got to look at the studio. Well, all the studios are in trouble because they're in a very tight competition. The studios and the streaming services, and the studios are both now, and the streaming services. The studios have all become streaming services. The streaming services have not all become studios, but eventually it's all going to merge together. Because clearly you can't compete if you're not doing the whole ball of wax. So that's where this goes. So right now, even at this price, Disney's still like 30 times earnings. That's too much. There's no way to justify that. They can't possibly grow enough to get into that valuation. So you have to still wait for them to get cheaper. I wanted to buy them when Iger came in. I want to buy them. I was trying to figure out a reason to buy them. I can't. This is still probably the most they should be. It's like $100 is the top, should be the top for Disney, not the bottom. They get down around here, around $66. They get super interesting. And so therefore, though, now that we're at $87, then you got to say, well, okay, how do I get in for $66? So I go to Disney. And I go to 2025 and I say, how much I say I'm willing to pay? 66 for sure, right? Well, I can sell the 75 puts for $9, $9.50. That's $66, right? $65.50. So that's how I can do it. But still, I want to be sure. I want to be sure Disney's not going to drop $10 more, and then I could have gotten 13 for it. I'm still not convinced enough that I want to do this. But in the long-term portfolio, I don't mind having some Disney and selling that. That's not going to bother me, is to sell 5-10 shares of 5-10 contracts of Disney and have 1,000 shares at net $66. That's fine. I don't mind having $66,000 worth of Disney at $66 a share, because that I can see holding the value. I can see that's all right, because there we're down from 87 to 60 is about 25% lower than it is now. And if they're at a 25 multiple now, let's say if they're at a 30 multiple now, take 25% off of that is 7. So that becomes like a 23 multiple. I could deal with that. Not only that, though, but we can fix it, because if we have $66,000 worth of stock at 66, then we can sell some calls and sell some more puts and lower it down to $50 a share net, and then we're in good shape. And then I've got a stock I can really work with. That's how you build a portfolio in a flat market. But you've got to pick your spots, and you've got to be patient, and you got to wait for your opportunities, and you've got to be smart about the way you're doing it. So that's what we got to focus on next year. Next year is going to be very much a rebuilding year, just like for a sports team. It's a rebuilding year for portfolios, and we've got to be realistic about what lies ahead. And we'll get a much better idea of that when we do get more first quarter results. Okay, I'm out of words. How are we doing? Natural gas 526. Oh, thanks, Tom. All right, the last thing we're going to do is go back to natural gas then. Oh, I missed it. Bastard. Oh, well. So we have our 2 shares, and they're averaging 534. Oh my God. Okay, well, I would have wanted to buy them when he said, thanks for mentioning it, but I missed it. So anyway, so we had this nice dip. I said 525, didn't quite make 525, but exactly what I said, right? The low should come in about yesterday's low. That's where you want to add more. And if I had done that, we would have lowered our basis, and then we would have already been out with a lower basis now. We could have added 2, dropped the basis down from 534 to 530, and then when we cross back over 530, we sell the 2 that we just bought, and all of a sudden our basis is now 5 cents lower on the remaining 2. We've widened our profit window, put ourselves further out of danger, and we're back to 2 longs. But you know, in the long run, I'm very confident that this thing's going to shoot up. It just is a question of when people feel cold, especially in New York where they're trading natural gas. You just need it to be snowing and everybody suddenly buys natural gas contracts. And that's how that works. All right. Anywho, that's where we are now. Everybody have a wonderful holiday. Merry Christmas and all that, and Happy Hanukkah and whatever it is you're celebrating. And let's see. We'll see what happens at New Year's. I don't know what's going to happen because Monday's a holiday, and I'm not positive I'm going to be here, but I'll probably be here. So we'll probably do it again next week. And either way, though, just have yourselves a great holiday, and best to you and all your families. All right, take care.